Before the academy called it an emergency, before the instructors understood what was happening, and before 31 civilian ships began drifting toward death, one human cadet had already seen the disaster coming. Everyone else thought it was a training exercise. She knew it was a countdown. The first warning sign was not the alarm. It was the fact that the human reached for the manual controls before the station admitted anything was wrong. At the Halcyon Command Conservatory, mistakes were expensive by design. Every corridor, every simulator bay, every tactical chamber had been built to teach future fleet officers one principle before all others. Space did not forgive hesitation. For 118 standard cycles, the conservatory had trained navigators, crisis coordinators, convoy wardens, and battle directors for the Orion Accord. Its graduates commanded patrol wings across 9 borders, disaster fleets in 3 unstable sectors, and diplomatic escorts through territories where a single wrong vector could start a war. Admission was open to all Accord species. That was the statement printed on the recruitment seal. The reality was more complicated. Some species were expected to become commanders, some were expected to become analysts, some were expected to become technicians, and humans, still new enough to the Accord that many older officers called them provisional allies when they thought no one was recording, were expected to be useful in emergencies and unstable in doctrine. They were courageous, everyone agreed, reliable, under pressure, in a narrow kind of way. But command required more than courage. That was what the conservatory believed. Until Mira Saye arrived. She was 24 years old, born on the mining moon Vesta 9. A place that did not appear on most diplomatic maps because nothing important had ever happened there except extraction accidents, oxygen strikes, and 3 pirate incursions. The Central Fleet had responded to 2 days too late. Her application file had been reviewed by 5 different officers, not because it was weak, because the emergency response log attached to it looked like someone had mixed simulation data with casualty reports. Mira had not graduated from a prestige orbital school. She had not served under an admiral. She had not completed one of the Accord's formal command track apprenticeships. She had spent 6 years coordinating civilian evacuation routes across frontier systems where beacons failed, convoys broke formation, and rescue ships arrived after the worst decisions had already been made. She did not talk about it. On her first day, she located her bunk, calibrated her wrist console, reported for medical baseline, and asked where the oldest navigation maps were stored. This made her strange. Not loud strange, not defiant strange. The kind of strange that made instructors pause because she looked at every room as though she were already calculating how it would fail. By the 4th week, the other trainees had decided she was either arrogant or afraid. Trainee Val Rennick believed it was arrogance. Val belonged to the Sithari, a species whose command memory stretched back before humanity had built its first orbital dock. He ranked 2nd in the current cohort, carried himself like someone who had already chosen his flagship, and possessed the careful politeness of a blade wrapped in cloth. The confrontation happened during Convoy Preservation Lab. 40 trainees stood in a tiered simulation chamber while Instructor Odrin prepared a standard disaster scenario. The chamber projected a civilian convoy crossing a debris field near a red dwarf. 42 transports, limited shield capacity, unstable comms, no hostile contact expected. A routine exercise. Val raised one silver hand before the simulation began. "Instructor," he said, voice smooth enough that the insult took a moment to arrive. "Before we begin, may we clarify how much frontier improvisation is considered acceptable in command scoring?" Several trainees turned. Mira did not. She was looking at the projected convoy, eyes moving between the transport spacing and the red dwarf's radiation pattern. Instructor Odrin folded his lower arms behind his back. "Define your concern." Val allowed the briefest pause. Some trainees come from environments where procedures are absent or neglected. Useful experience, perhaps. But in formal convoy command, survival depends on discipline. I only wish to understand whether we are being scored on Accord doctrine or human emergency guessing. A few trainees made quiet sounds that were not quite laughter. Mira finally looked at him, not sharply, not angrily, just directly, as if he had become part of the scenario. "That depends," she said. Is your doctrine planning for the second debris wave? The chamber stilled. Val's expression did not change, but something behind his eyes tightened. There is no second debris wave listed in the briefing. No, Mira said. There isn't. Instructor Odrin turned toward the projection. The red dwarf flickered. The convoy continued forward. Val smiled slightly. Then perhaps we should not invent hazards to appear insightful. Mira nodded once, as though he had answered a question she had not asked aloud. Instructor Odrin did not intervene. He had been reading Mira's file for 4 weeks, and he had been waiting to see whether the room would notice before the system did. The simulation began. Val was assigned convoy commander. Mira was assigned tertiary navigation support, a position with no authority unless the commander requested input. It was a clean arrangement, controlled, fair, the kind of setup that allowed a hierarchy to display itself without anyone admitting that was the point. For the first 7 minutes, Val performed perfectly. He tightened the convoy formation, redirected auxiliary shields to the outer transports, rotated 2 cargo haulers into sacrificial screen positions, and increased speed by 8% to clear the debris field before radiation interference worsened. The chamber approved every decision. Scores appeared in green. Efficiency, cohesion, doctrine compliance, command clarity. Then Mira spoke. You're compressing them too early. Val did not look back. Tertiary navigation may submit advisory notes through the console. The debris isn't spreading from impact, she said. It's being pulled. That got Instructor Odrin's attention. Val's fingers moved across the command board. There is no gravitational anomaly marked. Because it's behind the star. The red dwarf pulsed again. This time, 2 other trainees noticed. The debris field shifted by less than 1 degree, a tiny movement, almost nothing. But the human had seen it before the instruments named it. And here is the question no one in that chamber could answer. If a cadet with no command authority can see the truth before the entire academy system does, who should really be trusted with the fleet? Val's score remained green. He ignored her. At minute 9, the second debris wave appeared. It did not arrive as scattered fragments. It came like a dark tide, hundreds of metallic shards slingshotting around the dwarf from an unseen wreck mass beyond sensor range. The chamber alarmed. Val reacted fast, too fast in the wrong direction. He ordered full acceleration. The convoy stretched. The front transports surged ahead. The rear medical carriers lagged. A gap opened through the middle of the formation, exactly where the second wave was densest. Mira's hands were already moving across her support console. Cut main thrust on the lead 6, she said. Rotate the rear carriers inward. Use cargo heat sinks as decoys. Val snapped. You do not command this convoy. No, Mira said. But you're about to split it. The first transport was struck. Its shield collapsed in a flare of white. The chamber dimmed the vessel to casualty status. Val's score dropped. Not enough to fail. Enough to make the room stop breathing comfortably. He corrected with textbook precision, but the scenario had already changed shape. Every decision that had been correct 1 minute earlier now cost him 3 more. The convoy's own speed became the trap. Its tight formation became a net. Its shield rotation protected ships that were no longer in the path of danger and exposed ships that were. Then the simulation did something it was not supposed to do. The instructor's console locked. Odrin's eyes narrowed. Across the chamber, every projection flickered from blue training light to amber live signal priority. A real distress code punched through the conservatory network. For half a second, no one moved. Then the chamber displayed a new feed, not simulated transports, actual ones. 31 civilian ships crossing the Maris Drift, 6 light minutes from the station, caught in a debris cascade from a collapsed mining platform. Their autopilot net had failed. Their convoy leader was broadcasting blind. The rescue wing was 11 minutes out. The trainees stared at it. The exercise had become an emergency. Val looked to Instructor Odrin. Odrin was already trying to regain external command link, but the station's relay stack had shifted into automatic priority lock. Too many departments were requesting control at once. Too many systems were waiting for authorization. Mira did not wait. She leaned into her console and began entering commands. Val grabbed her wrist. "You are not authorized." Mira looked down at his hand, then up at the live feed where one civilian ship had already begun to drift out of formation. "If you want to file a complaint," she said, "survive the next 6 minutes." He released her. Not because he agreed, because the second real debris wave had just appeared on the edge of the projection. Mira did not take command like someone claiming power. She took it like someone lifting wreckage off a trapped body. "Station relay," she said, voice calm. "Broadcast narrowband pulse on civilian emergency channel 7. No language packet. Pattern only. 3 short, 1 long. Repeat." A communications trainee blinked. "That is not Accord standard." "It is minor standard," Mira said. "They'll understand it faster." She pointed to 3 projected cargo haulers. "Those ships have industrial heat sinks. Tell them to vent on my mark. Not now. If they vent now, they die." No one laughed. No one smiled. Val watched the human's hands move faster than the chamber could update. She was not following the convoy manual. She was reading panic. A transport captain broke formation before the signal reached them. Mira saw it instantly. "Do not chase them," she said. Val's head turned. "They'll be destroyed. If the convoy turns, all of them will." The words landed hard. There was no cruelty in them. That made them worse. Mira opened a direct beam toward the fleeing ship and transmitted one instruction: "Kill rotation. Burn down. Trust the dark." The ship continued spinning. 3 seconds. 4. 5. Then its engines cut. It dropped beneath the densest debris stream by less than 40 meters. The chamber's casualty projection held. Alive. The room changed after that, not loudly, not with apology, but with obedience. Trainees began following her commands before Val repeated them. Shield math updated. Relay timing stabilized. The cargo haulers vented heat in staggered bursts, drawing the smaller fragments away from the medical ships. 2 passenger liners rotated belly first into the debris stream, using their thickest hull plating where shields had failed. Every order was ugly. Every order spent something: fuel, hull, cargo, pride, options. But the convoy held. Then the final problem appeared. The largest fragment was not debris. It was the mining platform's reactor spine, tumbling end over end, still hot, still magnetized, large enough to tear through the convoy's center and scatter radioactive material across the drift. The rescue wing was 4 minutes away. Impact was in 90 seconds. Val whispered, "There is no intercept asset." Mira's face changed, only slightly. But Instructor Odron saw it. He recognized the look from frontier recordings, from survivors giving testimony, from officers who had learned that command was not the art of finding good choices. It was the burden of choosing which terrible one would leave people alive. "There is one," Mira said. She highlighted a small maintenance tug at the rear of the convoy. Its engine output was weak, its hull was old, its crew count was 3. A silence opened around the projection. Val understood first. "No." Mira did not look at him. "The tug can latch to the reactor spine and alter its tumble by 4 degrees. That will not save the tug." "No." The word was quiet. The room heard it anyway. Mira opened the channel to the maintenance tug. 3 faces appeared, all human. That was the detail no one expected. Frontier crew. Older, tired, already suited. The woman in the center looked at Mira's uniform, then at the trajectory line behind her. She did not ask whether there was another option. People from the outer systems rarely wasted time on questions that had already been answered by the shape of the fire. "How many?" the woman asked. Mira swallowed once. 31 ships. The tug captain nodded. "Send the angle." Mira sent it. For the next 40 seconds, nobody in the conservatory chamber spoke. The maintenance tug burned hard, crossing the debris stream in a bright, trembling line. Fragments tore pieces from its hull. Its left engine died. Its right engine overcompensated. It still reached the reactor spine. The latch connected. The tug captain held the burn. The reactor spine shifted. 1 degree, 2. The tug began to break apart. 3 degrees. The convoy's center line cleared. 4 degrees. The reactor spine missed the medical carriers by the width of a docking tower and vanished into the radiation glare beyond them. The tug's signal ended. The rescue wing arrived 3 minutes later to find 31 civilian ships damaged, terrified, and alive. The chamber remained amber for another moment. Then the live feed closed. Training lights returned. No one moved. Instructor Odrin released the locked console and looked across the room at the human standing over tertiary navigation support, both hands still on the controls, staring at the place where the tug's signal had disappeared. Val stepped back from the command board. His ranking score was still visible beside his name. It no longer seemed important. He looked at Mira for a long time. "The pulse pattern," he said finally. 3 short, 1 long. Mira did not answer immediately. When she did, her voice was steady again. "Frontier distress reply," she said. "It means we see you. Hold together." Val lowered his eyes, not in defeat, in recognition. Instructor Odrin turned to the class. "Convoy Preservation Lab," he said, "is not about preserving formation. It is about preserving lives." He looked at the frozen trajectory map, at the 31 ships still marked alive, then at the empty space where 3 names would soon be added to a memorial database. "Doctrine exists," he continued, "because someone survived long enough to write it down. But there are places where doctrine arrives late. Some officers learn command in classrooms, some learn it in wreckage. No one had to ask which kind stood among them." After the chamber emptied, Val remained at the door, one hand resting against the frame. He did not smile this time. "The tug crew," he said. "You knew they would do it." Mira gathered her console slate. "No," she said. "I knew they would understand the cost." Val looked back at the dark projection wall. "And humans accept that?" Mira paused beside him. For the first time since arriving at the conservatory, the tiredness beneath her calm became visible. "No," she said. "We hate it." Then she walked out. Some would later call what Mira did insubordination. Others would call it instinct. But the 31 ships that survived that day had a different name for it. Instructor Odrin stayed in the chamber long after the trainees had gone. He opened Mira Saye's performance record, removed her from tertiary navigation classification, and filed an emergency recommendation for command track acceleration. Under instructor assessment, he wrote only 4 words: "Does not wait for permission."